Welcome to Delivering Miracles, a podcast to teach women like you tips and strategies on how you can have a safer pregnancy so you can bring home a healthy baby. I'm your host and your high-risk pregnancy expert, Parijat Deshpande. I can't wait to chat with you. Pain and I are best friends. That's not true. We're complete enemies because I hate it. But we're best friends in that I know pain very, very well. I have lived with pain for so long in my life that I don't actually know what it's like to live without pain. And that really hits home when I have moments without pain. And I should do an episode on this, on myofascial release therapy. I found this amazing therapist who helps me with my pelvic pain due to severe endometriosis. And the first time I went to see her, I could not believe how much my body had gotten used to pain until she released so much of the tension in my body that was caused from it. It wasn't all gone. I would say maybe it was even like 40% better after I saw her the first time. It was mind-blowing. But pain is something that has shaped my life for the better part of like 20 years, I would say, maybe longer. And the thing with pain is that you get used to it. And so you forget how bad it is. So those Likert scales of when somebody says, oh, rate your pain from 1 to 10, I can tell you it's a 4. For most people, it's probably a 9. So those scales don't even matter anymore, right? And when it becomes a huge problem is when I have to live my life. I have to go get groceries. I got to take care of my kid. I've got to go to work. I got to show up for my clients. And I can't be fully present because some part of my body hurts. And it hurts so much that it takes all of my energy to just be standing or sitting or breathing some days. And for people like me, who are extremely sensitive to medication, I can't even rely on pills to help me feel better. I don't know if I would or not if I could take them, but the fact that I can't take more than half a dose of Advil before my body starts reeling, going, what did you do? It's not an option for me. And so living with pain without having pain medication as an option forced me to start looking at other ways I can manage pain, things that don't involve medication, because I need to live my life. I'm not going to stop my life for pain. And I know this is something that a lot of you that are listening can relate to, because even if you don't have chronic pain, pain during pregnancy is freaking hard. Round ligament pain, maybe sciatica you've got going on. Maybe you've got symphysis pubis dysfunction, SPD. Oh my God, that sounds awful. I didn't have that, but I have several friends who did. It sounds miserable to have that. And when you're pregnant, maybe you don't want to take medication, right? Or maybe you can't, right? There are a lot of medications you can't take, but maybe you don't want to, even the ones that you're allowed to. And so I know a lot of women come to me feeling really helpless. Like, I just have to live with this for the next 9 months. This is hard. And part of that is because they feel like, well, okay, maybe pain is just part of the process. I'm pregnant. Everybody says pregnancy hurts. So, okay. And part of it is because there aren't a lot of medications they want to or can take. But the thing is, we're not as helpless against pain as we think we are. And I know when we're in the thick of it, it feels like there's nothing in the world that is ever going to make this better other than chopping off a part of your body, right? I can't tell you how many times I've told my husband, can we just chop off everything below my ribs? And then everything will be better. It'll be fine. I get it. But there's so much that you can do. And I cannot tell you how excited I am for today's episode. We are talking with Dr. Beth Darnall, who is, I'm seriously like fangirling here. I'm so excited because she is the specialist on pain management and what we can do without medication to help manage our pain effectively. And so I'm super excited to introduce you to her. Beth Darnall is a clinical professor at Stanford University. She's a principal investigator for $13 million in federal research that is investigating psychological treatment for chronic pain. She's passionate about educating patients and healthcare clinicians about effective, low-risk, low-cost strategies to reduce pain and suffering. I mean, sign me up, right? She is the author of 3 books: the Opioid-Free Pain Relief Kit, the Less Pain, Fewer Pills book on avoiding the dangers of prescription opioids and gain control over chronic pain, and the 3rd book, Psychobehavioral Treatment for Chronic Pain, the Evidence-Based Basics, which is available sometime this year. She's been featured in Time Magazine, The Washington Post, and Scientific American Mind, and now she's on Delivering Miracles. I'm so excited. Welcome, Beth. I'm so happy you're here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Parijat. It's really my pleasure to finally connect with you.
Yes. I've been following your work for so long. Everything you say just so resonates for me as a practitioner of mind-body work for women who are pregnant, as well as somebody who lives with chronic pain. I mean, everything you say really, really resonates. So before we jump in, because you have such a wealth of knowledge that I'd love to tap into, but before we start that, can you talk to us a little about what brought you to this field of psychological treatment for pain? How did you get started with that?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that historically, and really even today, the topic of pain is not taught in undergraduate education or graduate psychology programs. So I never... True. It's so true. It's just missing. It's really missing from the national curriculum, really in all healthcare professions, but I'm a psychologist, and so that was my training. But as I moved forward into my clinical training and my postdoctoral fellowship, I found myself working with individuals with major healthcare problems. So spinal cord injury, amputation, major surgery, debilitation. And I found that I enjoyed working with these individuals because I could be with suffering comfortably. And then I was reminded of my own history. I actually had chronic pain when I was younger, but back in the day, I didn't think of it as chronic pain. We didn't have that label for it. I just lived with it and never sought medical care for it. Later in life, I had a tragedy occur when I was 19 where the person that I was closest to was killed. And what that did was it increased my pain, unsurprisingly. There's a very close relationship. Yeah, a very close relationship between stress and pain. And so my pain naturally increased. And I was pretty good at catastrophizing pain, meaning that I was focused on worst case scenario. I was really scared. I was away from home. I didn't know why I was having so much pain. I didn't know what to do about it. And so I ended up going to the hospital, hoping that somebody could give me some answers. And even more than that, I just wanted it fixed.
Yes.
And they ran a lot of tests and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So they sent me home with a bottle of Vicodin, and I was 19 and I had pain that was being increased by grief and extreme distress. And I think anybody could look at that and see that that treatment pathway was problematic. And it was, and it took me 6 months to figure out that Vicodin was actually not the answer. I had to figure it out for myself over the ensuing years. But what's interesting to me, Parijat, is that 25 to 30 years later, this conversation is more relevant than ever.
Absolutely. Isn't that true? I mean, you hear so much now in the media and just kind of everywhere about what do we do about this opioid epidemic? And how do we get people off of these medications? How can we spend them less? And I know as a chronic pain, somebody who's lived with chronic pain, that it can be a very sensitive issue to hear about that. Because then you're kind of going, well, are you taking away my relief or are you actually trying to help me? So there's a huge conversation happening right now about that.
Yeah, it's true. And my message, it's a very polarizing conversation, opioids versus no opioids, et cetera. And my message is just that I think everybody can get behind the idea that it's to every person's benefit to need and use as little pain medication as possible. Ideally, you don't need any, but if you do, let's equip you with the tools and the skills so that you need and use as little of it as possible, because there is no such thing as a medication that does not come with some side effects or long-term consequences. And we just want to be mindful of that. And in particular for new moms who may be breastfeeding, etc.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I love about your message is that you're not just slashing the meds and taking them from people and saying, never again, you're not allowed. It's really just, let's make this better for you so you need less of them and you can have more long-term relief.
Right. And that's why it's really incumbent upon us to learn as much as possible about pain, the control that we do have over it, and to use those skills and tools regularly, because the onus is on us to help ourselves need and use as little of that medication as possible.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes, yes, yes. So along that line then, in your line of work, what are some of the biggest myths people have about pain and pain management?
I think the biggest myth that is really pervasive among the general public and even among healthcare professionals is that pain is a passive process, that we are simply sort of the passive recipients of an experience of pain. But in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. We tend to think of pain as just being something we feel in our bodies, what we would call a purely sensory experience. Mm-hmm. But in fact, the actual definition of pain from the International Association for the Study of Pain, it's the premier global association for pain, defines pain as both a negative sensory and emotional experience.
Oh, wow.
You
never hear that second part of it, though.
No. Well, not only do you never hear it, it's never treated that way.
Yes.
And so what we recognize are a few things. Number one, psychology is built into the definition of pain. I like to call pain a psychosensory experience.
I love
it
that.
Is necessarily integrated with our thoughts, with our emotions, with our expectations, with our interpretations. Our entire psychology influences how much pain we feel, how long it lasts, and how much we're going to suffer from it.
Oh my gosh.
So that's really bedrock. So when we understand that, we can also recognize that typically in our medical system, we're only treating half of the definition of pain. And yet we sit back and wonder why pain outcomes are suboptimal.
Yes.
So what I advocate strongly for is treating the full definition of pain, the whole person, in particular, the psychological factors, because that's where patient empowerment lies.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, I want to stop here for a second because I know we might have some listeners who are thinking, okay, wait, so are you just telling me that the pain is in my head?
Yeah. No, in fact, but here's what's funny. It's no and yes. So no matter where we feel pain in our body, it could be our foot, it could be our gut, it could be our shoulder. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you feel pain. It doesn't matter what your diagnosis is. All pain is processed in the central nervous system. That is your brain and your spinal cord. And because all pain is processed in the central nervous system, it turns out that it's highly responsive to our psychology and our mindset, because some of those same regions of the brain that process the experience of pain, they also process many of our different emotions, such as fear or worry or depression or sadness. And there is such an overlap. They're almost integrated. You can think of emotional pain and physical pain as sharing real estate in the brain. And for this reason, a big component of gaining control over pain lies in us learning how to best regulate these emotional centers of our brain. Because if we can turn down the volume on some of these negative emotions, we gain better control over pain itself.
So what you're suggesting then is that a way to manage the pain is to address the emotions first.
Well, so it's a little tricky, but here's how I'd like to explain it. Imagine you experience pain, it's severe, and boy, it really gets your attention because pain is there as a warning signal. It's designed to get your attention. It's meant to help us survive. And it does that by alerting us that there's harm afoot and we need to escape it. And this works really well if there's a dog biting your heel and you need to escape the threat of this angry dog. Because if you don't escape it, he's going to continue to attack you. You'll have further injury, etc. This all makes sense. Pain serves a useful function in this regard. But once we have chronic pain, once the pain is coming from inside of us, like a migraine or low back pain or pregnancy-related pain, there's nothing for us to escape.
Right.
We can't escape the pain. Those signals are still ringing. It's like I call pain the harm alarm.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to get your attention, to warn you that you need to escape something, to warn you of harm. But that same harm alarm is going to ring, even though you can't escape the migraine or the pregnancy-related pain or anything else. And that causes internal distress because you're born motivated to escape pain. Every fiber of your being wants to get away from it. And you're going to have a whole biological cascade that's trying to prepare you to escape that pain. But then come to find out you can't run away from it. And so that causes distress. And while you're born motivated to escape pain, you're not born knowing how to modulate pain or the distress that it causes you. And it's incredibly important that you learn how to contain this stress, how to self-treat the distress that pain causes you, the anxiety, the fear, the worry, the depression related to ongoing pain, for instance.
I love that you said that while the physiological changes that happen in response to pain to help you run away from that dog that's biting you or to try to help you to get away from this pain you actually can't run away from, like a migraine, that's built into our nature. But how to cope with the distress of that pain, we are not born with. I think that's such a huge point because I know living with chronic pain, I know so many of our women who have pregnancy-related pain or pain during fertility treatments or anything like that, or even postpartum. You blame yourself going, what is wrong with me that I can't get this under control? I'm doing everything and it's not working. I'm broken.
Yes, which unwittingly only compounds the problem.
Right.
And so this is why it's so important that we equip women and really everyone, but that we equip women with the information and the skills to control this cycle of distress. Because what that does is it actually dampens pain processing in the central nervous system. It allows us to have a different mindset about pain. It allows us to focus on the things that we can do to help ourselves, to self-soothe, rather than focusing on how out of control the circumstance is, what a failure we are, or how we feel about, whatever we're experiencing. It is so critical that we learn how to self-soothe, deliver self-care, and comfort ourselves. Or, as I mentioned, we will be unwittingly fueling this fire of pain and distress. So I like the way I describe it to the people I work with, I'll say, imagine that your pain, you're living with this little campfire and that's your pain. And if we focus on worst case scenario, or if we feel helpless about our pain, or if we're ruminating on the worst aspects of it and expecting it to worsen, it's like picking up a can of gasoline and pouring it on that fire. And look, nobody wants more pain, but this is what happens behind the scenes if we're not equipped with the right information and the right skills to learn how to put that can of gasoline down. Because women are born really attuned to pain. Women are more likely to ruminate on pain. We are more attuned to threat in the environment. And that makes sense that then we would be more attuned to what's happening in our bodies and to worry about it. And so that's just information for us. That's just the way we're wired. And it's that much more important that we learn these ways to self-soothe.
I love this. Yes. That makes a lot of sense. And when you give that visual of the campfire, that really shows the process that takes place. And I can really vouch for this. For those of you that are listening, maybe you can too. I know when I am under stress, if my anxiety is high, if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm not taking care of myself, my pain goes through the roof and nothing else has changed. But what's happening internally with my mood, with my anxiety, whatever, it has a direct impact. But Beth, when you say that though, then we might have some listeners thinking, so did I then cause my pain because I'm feeling depressed, because I have anxiety, because I'm worried about my baby? For a lot of our women who have a high risk pregnancy and don't know if their baby's going to survive, did I cause that pain to happen?
Yeah, my response to that is no. Nobody asked for pain. Nobody created pain or caused pain. All pain has some medical basis. And I just think it's important to focus on that piece. Resist the temptation to blame yourself. It's just unproductive and it's not the point. My message to everyone is your pain is real. Your pain has a medical basis. And your psychology will profoundly influence how much pain you feel, how much you suffer from it, and how long it lasts. So that is simply an opportunity to help yourself suffer less and to experience less pain. So that's something we can get excited about and spin in a positive way. Okay, now I just want to learn as much as possible so that I can gain as much control, so that I can alter the trajectory of my pain and have a better quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I love this. I am loving this. Yes. Yes, it is a very empowering message. It is, and a huge part of it, which you just hit home, is we've got to take the self-blame out of it, because it blinds us from seeing the opportunities that we have, the options that we have, and the ways that we can get back in control over something that feels like there's zero control over it.
No, absolutely. Every day is a new opportunity. So invite yourself to focus on the positive opportunity that's available to you today. It's a process. Even when people learn the skills and the tools, it's not like learning them magically alters anything. It's daily application of these skills. It's learning the relaxation response that, triggers a parasympathetic nervous system response that promotes healing in the body. It's learning how to self-soothe. It's learning how to identify negative thoughts in the moment and to start steering your mind in a positive direction. Nothing happens overnight. It's really retraining mind and body away from pain. But the research tells us that in as little as 11 weeks of applying these skills, you can alter the structure and the function of your brain, of your nervous system, so that not only do you experience less pain over time, but you will have shaped your entire nervous system towards relief, future relief.
Yes. And I can really personally attest to that working. It is powerful because it gives you an experience in your body that you didn't think you could have. And that is life-changing. That is life-changing.
Yes.
So can we go into that a little bit deeper? Because we talk a lot about stress on this podcast and how stress impacts all types of health issues that are related to fertility and even pregnancy complications, and how kicking off that relaxation response does the exact opposite and can actually help you repair from and heal from some of these health issues. So how does stress then affect pain specifically?
Yeah, so there are multiple pathways by which stress will intersect with pain to amplify it. Some of those pathways may be through endocrine pathways or the HPA axis. We can also see that when we experience stress, it can change our behavior so that we may make worse nutritional choices. We may be, stay up late and we're not getting the sleep that we need to restore our nervous system to a healthy state. So we can just find ourselves abdicating self-care in small ways and big ways that perpetuates the cycle.
Yes.
But beyond that, we are experiencing stress. We may find that our nerves are raw and that we're more likely to focus on the negative aspects of a situation, to cope less well with pain, to focus more on the pain itself, to worry about it. So the response then is to actually turn our attention inward to the pain, which we know actually increases the experience of pain. So pain and stress are very closely related. And for this reason, a big part of pain management is learning how to best control our stress. Because everything that we do to calm stress and to calm our nervous system is beneficial for pain relief.
Because of the biological changes that happen and the behavioral changes that happen when we are able to get back into that relaxed state, at least neurologically, kind of has this cascading effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like there's those endocrine pathways. There's also the psychological pathways. There's just the functioning of the nervous system. There's how stress and pain influence our behaviors. You know, there's just a multitude of different ways that these two are connected. I think it's useful to just come into awareness that pain is a type of stress.
Yes.
And so to try and separate the two, it's a little futile because they are the same thing in some ways. Pain is very stressful, and living with ongoing pain is incredibly stressful.
Yes, that is very true. It is such a cycle that feeds into each other, that you're stressed, that makes your pain experience worse, which makes you feel additional stress, which makes the pain worse. And it just continues. And I think that's where a lot of that helplessness comes from. And I'm thinking about several women I've spoken with recently who had SPD pain during pregnancy. And they just felt like there is nothing I can do. I can't take medication. I can't stand up. One of them had a toddler at home. So she's like, I can't take care of this little girl because I'm in so much pain. I can't stand. I can't walk. And it just looped and looped and looped because she felt so helpless in that moment. And what I'm hearing you say is actually, if we can just crack that cycle a little bit, we can interject it, end that cycle, and actually create a much more positive and a much healthier experience for the women that are listening.
No question. That's exactly right. And so when we are stuck in those cycles of pain and helplessness and ruminating about it, what happens is that we unwittingly entrain neural pathways that actually perpetuate pain. It's not because we want more pain, because nobody does. It's just because we don't know what else to do. We feel helpless because in that moment we are helpless. But that's where it's so critical to learn that right information, because it is possible over the course of weeks to not only extinguish those negative neural pathways, but to entrain new neural pathways that actually confer lasting relief.
Yes. And then the visual that I get from that is that you're really changing the foundation on which pain exists. So it's not a Band-Aid. It's not a quick fix. It's not just a simple solution that'll get you some relief for like a day or 5 minutes. We're really changing the way your body is responding to and experiences pain, which can last, like you're saying, for so long.
That is a critical point that you just made. When I work with people, I say, you can use these relaxation skills, these tools, these techniques, and you'll feel better for a few moments. And then your pain's going to come right back. That we expect that. Unfortunately, a lot of people encode, well, I tried these skills, but it didn't work. I still have pain.
Yes.
And so I say, well, that is not how this works. We expect that, you to feel good for a few moments, but I'm actually not interested in helping you just feel good for a few moments. I'm interested in helping you rewire your nervous system. And that occurs with repeated use of these skills over a series of weeks. And so it requires a shift in mindset about how this change occurs. We need to relinquish an expectation that a single dose of this mind-body medicine should be a total solution. Whenever we take medication that our doctor prescribes for us, we don't have that expectation. We know that we need to take the medication every day, sometimes several times a day. And mind-body medicine is no different.
Yes.
But what we do know is that over the course of a couple of months, you can create these changes in the nervous system that are lasting, that make you less prone, less sensitive to pain going forward.
And then what I hear is, as it might relate to some of you that are listening, is you change it now for later, so that even if your circumstances change, right? So maybe the SPD is resolved after the baby's born, or your sciatica pain's resolved after the baby's born, but then you have pain while breastfeeding, or pain while, with mastitis, or something else with healing from your delivery. You're still able to manage it, even if the type of pain has changed.
Right. Absolutely. Well, all pain is pain, no matter what the diagnosis, what label you give it, wherever it's felt in the body. Pain is pain, and it's located in the central nervous system. So if you learn these skills to modulate what's happening in your nervous system, you will be equipped with lifelong skills to manage whatever pain you experience going forward.
That is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That is so powerful, because when you're in it, you don't feel like that's possible.
Absolutely. It's so true. It's so true. We need to be reminded.
Yes, exactly. So I know you said a single dose of this doesn't work. Trying it once or twice doesn't work. For those of you that are listening, I've been there. I've done that. I've tried a couple things. I went, that didn't work. It's never going to work. I'm going to be in pain for the rest of my life. But keeping that in mind, that we need to do this regularly, create habits around helping our bodies release that pain and to really understand, experience pain differently. Given that, do you have like 2 of your favorite tips that you can share with us on managing pain for those of our listeners who don't want to or can't take medication?
Yes. So the trick is to not focus on pain. Focus on the other indices that these skills are working. So for instance, when you practice very slow, deep belly breathing, or what we call diaphragmatic breathing, and if you practice this for 20 minutes or so, you may or may not notice that your pain changes. Most people actually do notice that their pain is alleviated for those 20 minutes, but not everybody. But what's important for you to pay attention to Does your breathing slow? Did your stress level drop? Did your muscle tension lessen? You may have observed that your hands and feet became warmer. You may observe that you simply feel calmer. All of these are indices of a deep relaxation response. You have triggered your parasympathetic nervous system. This is healing, and this is an antidote to how pain changes your brain and your body. So focusing less on pain is the most important piece. Focus more on the behaviors that you need to use in order to self-treat what is happening to stress and to this agitation in your nervous system. So that's number one.
Interesting. So just so I can understand best, and maybe those of you that are listening, maybe some of you have the same question. So you're saying, okay, I've got a migraine and it just won't go away. And I've tried everything. I don't know what else to do. So I'm going to try this diaphragmatic breathing, which, by the way, is amazing for so many different things, right? I feel like we could heal the world with just some of this every day. Mm-hmm. But so you take these big, deep breaths, and you're saying, don't focus on the migraine. Focus on all the other parts of my body that are responding to this deep breathing. Is that right?
Essentially. And what I would say is, this is what I teach the people I work with. Actually learn the diaphragmatic breathing and these deep breathing skills when you're not redlined with severe pain.
So true.
So learn it when you're at least moderately comfortable, because you're going to be in a position to actually practice the skill, to give some attention to it. But then once you are practicing the skill, resist the temptation to be hypervigilant about your pain. Is my pain changing? Do I still have pain? What's happening with my pain? Rather than doing that
has happened in my head many times.
Right? Simply be with the skill of relaxation. It's actually not important what's happening to your pain as you're practicing these skills for the first few weeks. It's important that you're triggering the relaxation response, because that triggered regularly over the course of weeks and months, that is what reduces your pain. Mm-hmm. So that's the most important thing to be monitoring, is your level of relaxation, not the pain itself. The changes in pain come later. Mm-hmm. So focusing on it prematurely will not help you.
Yes. It feeds into the helpless loop then if you focus on it. And I can say from personal experience too, is once you're able to do this, then you'll recognize it the other way too, where I can tell, oh, my stress levels are going up. If I don't get a handle on this, my pain's going to come back tomorrow or in a couple days. I can tell that escalation is coming the same way as you're saying the de-escalation happens when you focus on all the other aspects that then result in pain relief.
Yeah, it's such a great point. You know, the analogy that I give is, it's as if we went to the gym once and we said, I tried lifting weights, but it didn't do anything and I didn't get fit. And so I'm not going to do this.
Right.
And we laugh because we know that exercise doesn't work that way. And so I want to encourage people to think of your brain and your nervous system as a muscle, and you're training it in the direction you want it to go. Mm. And as you practice these skills more, that's when pain changes. So it's not the going to the gym once that gets you fit. It's by going to the gym regularly over the course of time that fitness emerges. That's the mindset to have about these skills.
I love that. It makes so much sense. And I love that analogy that you used. It's one that I use frequently as well, because it really highlights the truth of it. How do you then respond to women who are listening in, who are pregnant, saying, okay, that's great, but maybe I don't have that kind of time because the pregnancy is going to be over?
Yeah. Well, practicing these relaxation skills take as little as 20 minutes a day. Mm. And you can break it up if you need to. So you could do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. You can do 10 minutes or even 5 minutes while you're sitting on the toilet, while you're in the shower. These skills are meant to be portable. And so you should be able to integrate it into your daily life. It's really critical to make time for these self-care skills, because if you have ongoing pain and you're trying to manage a newborn, you will be less efficient in everything you do.
Yes.
So think of it as an investment in your ability to be an effective mom and caregiver to your baby.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So tip number 1, you said diaphragmatic breathing, 20 minutes a day that you can split as little as into as many little chunks as possible to fit into what you're going through, and start it when you're not in so much pain. Start trying it when you can focus on the impact that it's having on the rest of your body. What's number 2?
So it's important for women to gain an awareness of their thought content. And that sounds kind of funny, but sometimes our mind is working against us without us even knowing it.
That is so true. Oh my goodness.
Right? It's so true. And we're not great at just knowing this on our own, but I do encourage people to kind of take stock of thoughts. How much pain causes you to worry, how much you focus on pain, expect it to worsen, worry about it worsening, maybe worrying that something might be wrong with you or feeling helpless about it. So in my books, I give a little quiz that people can take that helps them understand if their mind might be working against them. This is important to know because if you do identify that you have some of these negative thoughts and focus, it's an opportunity to start steering your brain in a direction that's going to help your body feel better. And that at the end of the day, that's all we care about. We just want to help you feel better. And it all starts with the brain.
Mm-hmm. And that's, again, just for those of you that are listening, that does not mean that you're making up your pain or that it's not real. It is very, very real. It's just the way to address it, as Beth is saying, is starting in the brain.
Absolutely. And when we use these skills, I mean, I work with individuals who have severe chronic pain conditions, and I can teach them these skills and they can use these skills. It doesn't cure the chronic pain condition by any stretch. And that's evidence that it's not all in your mind.
Right.
But what people say is, oh my gosh, I have my life back. I still have some pain, but pain doesn't control me. I can do more of the things I love. I am more in control. This is what's available to you. And once you learn the skills, you get to keep them for life. They don't require a prescription. There's no negative side effects. And this is why I strongly advocate that every woman out there learn everything she can do to control her own pain and suffering, because there are very simple techniques that you can learn that can empower you to live well beyond pain and live a meaningful life and have the most positive experience with your child.
Absolutely.
Possible.
I completely agree. For those of you that are listening, I hope what you're taking away is that you are not as helpless as you feel against your pain. By tapping into the power of your mind and your body, you can get in control of your pain. Whether you're trying to get pregnant, you are pregnant, you're raising your children, you can get in control of it. Beth, what are your final words of hope for women who are living with pain right now and are tuning in?
I hope that women are just inspired to learn more, to understand that there is so much control that is available, and that with a little dedication and using some techniques on a regular basis, women can learn to start delivering that self-comfort that leads to lasting relief. It's an excellent investment in your time. You will put forward excellent modeling for your children.
Ooh, yes.
So that they can learn that it's worth investing in themselves and their own well-being.
Beautiful, beautiful. And where can people find you if they want to know more about the work you do, or maybe even to reach out to work with you?
My website is BethDarnall.com. So that's one of the easiest ways to find me, is just to find me on the internet. I have a few books that describe these techniques using evidence-based strategies to reduce pain and manage pain that is drug-free and encourages as little use of medication as possible.
Awesome. And all of those links, including links to her books, are going to be linked in the show notes, so you can easily check them all out. Beth, thank you so much for being here. I could easily talk to you for several more hours on this topic. You know, I'm a huge fan of the work that you do, but I so appreciate you coming on today and sharing a bit of your knowledge and wisdom for our listeners.
Oh, thank you so much, Parja. It's such an important show, your audience, and I'm just delighted to speak directly to women, especially those that are pregnant or have newborns, where it's so important that they have the information they need to help themselves.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this was amazing. You guys have no idea how long I've been waiting to talk to her. It is, this is the message. This is it. This is it. I know how helpless you feel when you have chronic pain, when you have pain of any kind. It can feel like it knocks you off your feet. And then you add on pregnancy on top of that, or a brand new human being that you're still trying to understand. And it can feel like you've been swallowed by a tornado. And you become so convinced that there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. I have so been there. I have so been there. But what I really hope you take away from this is that you are not as helpless as you feel against your pain. By tapping into the power of your mind and your body, you can get in control of your pain. Even if you're trying to get pregnant, even if you're pregnant, even if you're raising your children. It is so possible, and I know you can do it. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you can head over to iTunes and leave a review so more women going through fertility and health problems, high-risk pregnancy, who are postpartum and are dealing with their bodies feeling like they've gone rogue, can tune into Delivering Miracles to receive inspiration, tips, and messages of hope on how they can have a healthy pregnancy too. And if your stress is high and you are ready to find a solution to quickly manage that stress so you can have a healthy pregnancy, even if you've got pregnancy complications, head over to parijatdeshpande.com and check out my free webinar. By watching it, you'll discover how to overcome your fear and your anxiety so you can help yourself actually stay pregnant as long as possible, whether it's a few hours or a few days or a few weeks, even if you've got pregnancy complications. So check that out at parijatdeshpande.com. Also, I would love to stay in touch, so follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at parijatdesh. That's PARIJATDESH. Come on over and say hi. I would love to meet you. It is crazy making some days to be living in pain. And when you add on the responsibility of taking care of another life during pregnancy, postpartum, it can do a tremendous number on your mood, on your mindset, on how you experience your body. But you are not as helpless as you feel. I've been there, I am there, and I really hope you take this message to heart because I know you can get in control of your pain. Take it one day, one step at a time. You can do this.